Steve, my good man, how the devil are you?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I say wonderful. I can move my head again, Steve. I had a bit of an incident during qualifying, which makes it sound like I was doing something exciting. I wasn't. I was sitting on the sofa watching MotoGP qualifying. We're witnessing history and seeing Jorge Martin go for his final lap. I'm like, no way can he recover 3/10 this lap. No fucking way. And he's getting into the final sector. I'm like, fuck, he's recovering 3/10. And
Don't bounce around, you'll do it again.
Yeah, I know. See, I'm getting so excited about it. I'm going to do it again. No, I won't, because I'll stay on my seat this time. So I jumped up off the sofa, Steve, laptop in hand. And I was sort of dancing around the living room a bit, and we got this little step in the living room. I just took a little tumble down and really jarred my neck. And the following day, I was stuck. I couldn't move my head at all. I was just like locked. Every time I had to turn around, I was turning my entire body. But it's starting to loosen up now, so we're feeling okay again. A lot of Tiger Balm has got me through my Jorge Martin-based injuries.
This is how we roll. We get that excited, we injure ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, aside from the neck, I'm very good. What a cracking weekend of racing we had, Steve.
Mate, it was awesome. All three classes, again, did not disappoint. It was just a brilliant weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
All through and through. Can't knock it. It's going to be hard to beat, actually.
I'm sort of thinking that when we had the start of this, like we knew we were going to have 2 rounds at Qatar, and I was like, without Dovi there to be like do some wins and do some fun, like slowing the field down, I don't think it's going to be that great having 2 rounds at Qatar. But boy, man, I was wrong, really wrong. It's been a cracking couple of weekends.
It has. It is a bit of a shame we haven't got the race this weekend like we did last year, but you know, a week off just to chill and relax before we hit Portimao, because that is going to be insane as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it, mate. It's a week to let my neck fully recover from the excitement of it all. And
I think... Sorry, I was going to say, I think I'm going to have to have a word with Cherie and get you a neck brace just for next race. Just in case.
Almost like a dog collar type thing going on here.
Yeah, but if you injure yourself again, we are getting you a cone of shame.
I just can't help it, Steve. I just lick my injuries when they happen.
No matter where they are.
As long as they're like on my arms generally, because after that I lose a lot of flexibility.
On my foot, no, not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe my knee if I tried really hard. I could lick my own knee, as we've just discovered, Steve.
He's there. You
got to witness that. I don't even know if you could see it or not. Obviously, you guys at home couldn't.
I did see a pair of jeans coming up. I was like, he's there. He's bendier than he thinks.
Yeah, there we go. So that was my bad leg, Steve. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was as well, mate. I'm impressed. That yoga's paying off.
The yoga is paying off, my friend. I feel very limber and flexible. I didn't do it this morning. Actually, I haven't done it for the last few days because of my neck. I did it this morning because, to be honest, I stayed up late last night and couldn't be bothered to get up early to do it. But
blame you.
It's what it is, isn't it? Anyway, Steve, shall we dive into the show?
Let's go for it.
Good stuff. Right, guys, I'm Tim, he's Steve, and this is for the love of MotoGP. Before we dive properly into our review of the weekend, Steve, I would just like to have a little bit of a rant. I know you and I have just had this chat and this rant a little bit, but I really want to get into it properly now.
Go for it.
Last year, and you mentioned it briefly actually last race, but we'll go back in time to last year when we started seeing these cool holographic logos appearing on the track. CGI logos, not holographic. They're the CGI logos appearing on tracks for advertising. That was pretty cool. Some of them moved. I know the My World one and the BMW ones we were just chatting about before recording, they moved. They look pretty cool. And then these ads got more and more, and we sort of got used to them a little bit. They stopped being cool. And then you actually complained last week about the Barwa ad it being a bit obtrusive and stuff. And now I'm not going to name the company that created the ad I'm about to rant about, Steve, because I just don't want to give them the airtime. So rather than name them for who they are, I'm going to call them Rolex. And
fair enough.
Rolex is probably one of their main competitions in the luxury watch world. So everyone listening knows who I'm talking about, but I'm going to call them Rolex.
I agree.
Why, Steve, was it allowed to happen that Rolex... I feel a bit bad ranting about Rolex so angrily here, because I Rolexes are probably okay. I've never seen one. They're expensive, aren't they? But the company's probably fine. So anyway, I'm going to keep calling them Rolex, but it's not actually Rolex. So don't be angry at actual Rolex. Be angry at this, the sponsors of this GP. So why were they allowed to cut away from the race lead and battles across the circuit, and not just in MotoGP or just in Moto2, but in all three classes, where they kind of panned the camera round a corner from a battle, zoomed out, there we see the Rolex logo appearing on the grass, and then they just stay at this wide shot while the battle goes off screen to the right, so we can still see this fucking logo.
One word: revenue.
Revenue, of course it's revenue, Steve, but it's a fucking joke, and I'm infuriated by it.
It is just another consequence of COVID. There's no ticket sales, there's no nothing, there's no people in there spending their hard-earned on drinks, on food, on merchandise. It is just all about clawing back some money, which I do kind of get. But we're here as viewers for the race. I don't care about any kind of dangly, spangly shit hanging off your wrist. You know, I don't give a shit. You know, I've seen people with the whole flashy, extra big watch so it flaps around, so it draws your attention to it. I don't give a fuck, mate.
It can't be comfortable either, can it? Having a big jangly watch.
No. And I know people do it because I've been told that's the reason why they do it. You don't see people with too much tight jewellery if it's worth a lot, because it will flap around and draw your attention to it.
It's funny, I'd never thought of that. I think maybe I wear my watch so tight because it's a $7.99 Casio, and I don't want anyone to actually know I'm wearing a $7.99 Casio. It's like the complete opposite thing going on here. But it had never occurred to me that expensive jewellery, expensive watches are jangly.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
All for the eye, mate. All for the attention. It is all about the revenue and the ad.
It is, you're right. And I'm still angry about it, don't get me wrong.
Oh,
here,
yeah.
But you're making a lot of sense, Steve. I can sort of understand why it happened. I'm enraged that it happened, and I'm furious that Dorna let it happen just for the money. But it's one of those things, because I hated it, and it made me angry every time I saw it. But would I rather put up with it and still be able to watch the racing? I guess I probably would, if I've got to miss the lead battle every now and again.
I think they could have picked their times better, because there was a couple of times where it was always done on a certain corner in that gravel trap. And it didn't matter what was happening on track. They would always pan to that. And I do think the director could have gone, actually, let's keep with this battle and we'll put it in next lap. Or we'll put it in at the end. I think they could have picked their moments a lot better through all three classes.
Yes, I agree completely. But maybe they were under some contractual obligation in which they had to show it every kind of 8 minutes or something. It had to be shown. But it's still infuriating. It infuriates me that Dorna let it happen and let it cut away from the action. And what was a great race otherwise across all of the classes.
Absolutely. There was, all three classes were great. It was just spoilt by this little bit of advertising for Mr. Rolex. But it did mean there was no virtual fan wall.
Yeah, it did fucking mean there was no virtual fan wall, mate. And, maybe worth it for that.
Perhaps. We'll see what happens at Portimao.
Yes.
They'll be both at Portimao.
Oh my God, I'll be raging. Absolutely raging.
We will have to do a special show just for you to have a rage out.
I thought that was going to be this show, actually, Steve. I thought that's how this show was going to start. But you know what, my friend? You saved me from that by kind of bringing me back down to earth and showing me that it was for a legit reason that this was happening.
It took me a while to get my head around it, and I was very, the first time I saw it, I was like, whoa, hang on. Those bikes were a long way off.
Yeah.
A long way off, because they were really far back at the track. I think after the Barwa one, which I got really annoyed with, this one was a lot further away, so it really did make the bikes quite small. But I did kind of get used to it after a while. Again, I find these things. I find when the racing's back on, I tend to forget all the crap that's happened that I don't care about.
Yeah, that's fair.
pretty quickly, and because the racing was so good, I was like, "That's gone, sod it."
Yeah,
don't care. Not going to buy a Rolex. Don't give a shit.
Exactly. I couldn't afford one of these watches even if I wanted it, mate.
No, I don't wear a watch anyway, so.
As discussed, I do wear my $7.99 Casio, which is currently covered in lots of paint, actually.
Nice. We're bikers, mate. Ditch the watch. You ain't got nowhere to be.
Oh, that's the nice hippie thing going on there, Steve. I like that.
I got told that when I was a kid. I used to wear a massive, proper leather cusp Fossil watch. Huge old thing.
Yeah.
And I was at a biker's meet, and it's real old, quintessential. I don't know. I want to say Hell's Angel leather jacket, leather waistcoat, big belly, tattoos everywhere, big beard. Come up and went, lose the watch, son. Bikers. And I just look, and I haven't worn a watch since.
See, that's really stuck with you. I wonder if he knew when he was saying that how important a message that would be in your life, Steve.
I know. I have got a watch tattooed on me now, though, on my wrist, so that's what kind of takes away from it. But that one only tells one time.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it is right twice a day, so it's all good.
It'd be amazing if it told the time all the time.
That would be an awesome tattoo, wouldn't
it? Just?
Brilliant. Just get some sort of implant where I could twist the hands around. That would baffle people. How do you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Anywho, should we move on to the next topic?
Let's do that, my friend.
Stuff too much?
We've spoken about watches now. Let's move it on here. I just wanted to talk briefly about the tweet from Lorenzo about Jorge Martin. Lorenzo is he trying to recover his image as the good guy with the after the end of the race? And talking about Martin, it was, quote, "A star is born," and "You shook the world tonight."
I think that was a dig at other people. I think that could have been a dig at Dovi.
It could have been a dig at Dovi. That's a fair point.
I think that could have been a sideway. I think he was paying a compliment. I think he was truthfully paying a compliment to Jorge.
Yeah.
But I think at the time, there might have been a twofold factor in it that he might have been having a poke at other people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, did Jorge Martin come up with Lorenzo? Isn't Lorenzo involved in a school, like a motorbike school?
I don't know, mate.
A bit like the Ranch, or a bit like the VR46 Academy. I think he's got something to do with one in Spain.
He might have. Wouldn't surprise me if it was in the Maldives.
It's not in the Maldives. I think it's probably in Mallorca.
I think it is probably in Mallorca. I think you could be right, but if what exactly the details of it are, I don't know. I tend to, if there's anything from Jorge on social media, I tend to give it a wide berth because he just sometimes annoys me.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm just doing a quick Google, and I have just found a fella called Chico Lorenzo has a race school. It's Jorge's dad's race school.
There you go. That would make perfect sense.
Yeah, okay. So, let's see. Did Jorge Martin go to this race school? Yes, it looks like he did.
That would make sense then.
Yeah, okay. So that's going to be a lot of it, isn't it? It's a lot of self-promo from Jorge, because I don't believe Jorge... This is Lorenzo, not Martin. I don't think Jorge Lorenzo does anything just because he's being nice. There's always something in it for him.
Unless he's going to get a spang-dangly jacket out of it.
Yeah, exactly. But then he's getting a spang-dangly jacket out of it, so that's what's in it for him.
I do quite like some of his jackets. I don't know why.
They're really fucking awful, man. I'm not someone that can judge in dress sense here, but his clothing choices are fucking terrible.
I like the individuality of it and just how blatant it is. I like anyone who has got their own individual style and the balls to wear it.
I mean, that's a fair point. Anyone that's unapologetically themselves, I do have a lot of respect for, but there's something about it when you're being unapologetically yourself and wearing, like, charity shop clothes, and then you're being unapologetically yourself and wearing designer jackets that are worth, like, 100,000 euros.
Oh, yeah. Someone's probably just gone down to the local outlet, got the cheapest jacket, a load of, like, sequins, and just stuck them on and go, right, 20 grand.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there are certainly designers in this world that could do exactly what you've just described. 100%, and people would pay shitloads of money for that stuff.
All right, just for the name. It's all about the name.
Yeah, it pretty much is. All right, let's keep moving then, Steve. In the notes here, I've got number 3 for our news item, and it's just that fight.
My favourite topic. Oh, we were talking about this, excuse me, before we started recording as well. It is just one of the best things I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. So, John McPhee, and who did he have that coming together with? Was it Alcoba?
I think it was Alcoba, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So John McPhee and Jeremy Alcoba had a bit of a coming together in the Moto3 race for anyone who hasn't watched it. And it's, essentially, I think Alcoba sort of ran into the back of John's teammate in Darren Bindart, which sat him up, and then he started to lose it a bit, and he sort of crashed into John McPhee, and Alcoba's bike came up and over John McPhee's head, and it was quite a spectacular crash.
It was pretty good.
But then it was the gravel trap that was the exciting bit, wasn't it? It was the two boys running towards each other, handbags out, swinging. And I want to say they were like proper windmilling and roundhousing for each other, but they weren't, were they? They were sort of slapping each other on the head. And then they just started doing these incredible kicks.
I don't know about incredible. Was the way I describe it. It was more, I don't know, 10 pints under and a kebab, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think, to be fair, he's a pretty small guy, McPhee. So the fact he was kicking up at like shoulder height, that's a pretty big kick.
I mean, the other guy started to give it back as well, which was even more awesome because they would both have the same style. It was like, kung fu kick. Wah!
I wonder if this is the only way to fight in leathers and a helmet. I've never tried to have a scrap wearing all my bike gear before, but maybe the only way to fight is to swing your legs up around head height and hope for the best.
Well, you've got, like, I don't know, what, a kilo's worth of helmet on. Just nothing.
I mean, a helmet's more than a kilo, isn't it, I'd imagine?
I have no idea what they weigh. Mine's pretty light, but, you've got that thing on. He might have a helmet on, but, give him a
Yeah,
bit
quite. I always wonder why they don't just nut each other a lot. Because you always see them, like, slapping each other's helmets when they have these scraps. But why don't they just nut each other? That way, you get all your rage out, and you're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. You might have a wee headache. Job done. What does it matter after that?
Yeah. That was just the best thing I've ever seen. It was just I don't want to be sexist, but the girliest fight I've ever seen.
It really was great. I had 3 thoughts went through my head in quick succession after I saw that start to happen, Steve. The first thought was, wow, I didn't expect this from John McPhee. The second thought was, well, he is Scottish, and when they get angry, they really go. And the third thought was, I think I could probably have John McPhee in a fight. And I've never thought that about a professional athlete before.
No, I think we probably stand a good chance, judging by that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it would be too bad, but it really tickled me. But there has been apologies. Both lads were fined. I think they got fined £1,000 each. And they have, I think John McPhee's got a 10-second penalty at the next race, and Alcoba's got a 5-second penalty. So even the stewards must have thought that
that was a bit out of sorts.
Yeah, McPhee obviously went. Yeah, exactly, a bit over the top there.
They both got sanctioned. They both had a slap on the wrist. John McPhee's been taken out, twice now, 2 races on the bounce. He got taken out a lot last year. It's just frustration.
Yeah.
And at the start of that, you did see, it did seem to be more John McPhee. He did go across first and start pushing and shoving. So, slap on the wrist, be a good sportsman, shake hands, move on.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Exactly it.
And everyone to stay away from John next week, so he'll probably pick the bike up and throw it at
you. Yeah, he has. To be fair, he has been pretty unlucky, hasn't he? We were having a chat in the Facebook group about this, and I think John McPhee is just a very good Moto3 rider, but I can't see him progressing any further in the GP paddock. But I think it would be nice to have people like that within the classes. It would be good to have a John McPhee who's kind of always a podium threat, just staying in Moto3. So if the guys coming up and coming through, they've got to beat John McPhee. I sort of starting to think this with Sam Lowes in Moto2. I think he'd be a very good multi-time Moto2 champion, stay there for another 5-6 years, and all the upcoming guys have to beat Sam Lowes to prove they're good enough for MotoGP. So I like the idea of him doing that. But he has been very unlucky, hasn't he, in the last few years? He always seems to get involved in someone else's crash.
He does, yeah. He seems to just be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's always getting caught up in somebody else's business. Hopefully that'll change. It's not his fault, and it must be so gutting when it does happen week in, week out.
Yeah.
But move on, Portimao, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly that. And then the last bit of news, Steve, which isn't actually MotoGP news at all, but we've just mentioned the Facebook group, so I thought I'd bring it up now. We have the no spoilers till Tuesday rule in the Facebook group, but 2 weeks in, and I'm starting to rethink this rule. While I don't want to say, as soon as the race is done, go posting because it's enraging when that happens. I think maybe we'll say a midday GMT or whatever the time is in the UK, depending on the time of year. No spoilers until midday on the Monday UK time, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's been a couple of times where I've been like, I want to talk about it now. Halfway through
exactly.
And it has been hard. We've had a couple of people like requesting posts. We've had to wait, and I think midday Mondays. One of us can remember and put out like a go for it post.
Yeah.
Talk to your heart's context. Yeah, Tuesday's a bit long. We're realising now, so apologies on that one.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll start that, and we'll see if that works. If it doesn't, maybe we'll do Monday mornings. But we'll stick with the kind of midday-ish around Monday for now, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, just give everyone time to watch it and not get spoiled. I know there's other social medias everyone will be on and be able to catch spoilers and what's going on, but in our own little group, we'll try and keep it as spoiler-free as possible.
Yep, exactly. Right then, Steve, as we were doing, I say we were doing, we've literally done one race review this season, but as we have been doing so far, let's just run through the top 5 in Moto3 and Moto2, and then we'll get onto our full MotoGP race review.
Go for it, buddy.
Good stuff. So, Moto3 then, we saw Kaito Toba finishing in 5th, Andrea Migno finishing in 4th, although my computer here has auto-corrected Migno to Tino, which I've only just noticed. Niccolo Antonelli finished 3rd, sort of out of nowhere. This was a weird one. Yeah, he hasn't really done anything for what feels like years.
I was going to say 2 seasons, season and a half, but all of a sudden he's like, don't forget about me.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, fuck, this is my last chance. If I don't do well this year, I'm out. So I better start getting some podiums.
Yeah, it's like the fat kid at the party. Someone's gone like lay off the pies and make yourself notice, and he's gone, what?
Yeah. That's it. So Darren Binder was in 2nd place there, the brother of Brad Binder. 2 pretty cracking weekends of Darren Binder in Qatar. And then someone else who had a cracking 2 weekends in Qatar is the rookie in Pedro Acosta. What a fucking race, Steve, from Pedro Acosta.
Boy had a blinder, an absolute scorcher. I mean, started from pit lane.
Yeah, in qualifying, he was trying to get a tow, wasn't he? Him among 7, I think it was 7 riders in total, got penalised for trying to get a tow, and it was pit lane starts for all because it was dangerous manoeuvres.
Yeah, they were on the race line, just not good. They won't learn, these Moto3 boys, will they?
To be fair to Pedro Acosta, he's 16 years old.
That's true.
The guy alongside him in that getting penalised was one Romano Fenati. There's a man that won't fucking learn.
Yeah, very true. He's probably pulling people's brake levers when no one's looking.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the guy had a blinder. Blinder.
Like you say, started from pit lane. By the time they were released, he was 9 seconds off the back of the pack, and then comes through to the win. Like, what the fuck, man? This kid, we were saying it last week, weren't we? Like, this kid is insane. He looks so good. He's coming in as the Red Bull Rookies champ. It now has a 100% podium record in Moto3, which is pretty good. And I'm looking at him and thinking, like, wow, this could be the next Marc Marquez.
Absolutely, mate. If he keeps this kind of form up all day long, he'll be champion this year because Moto3 is a tough one to get on the podium. Yeah. Keep going, lad. 16 years old and to have this kind of record already, the future's looking so bright for him.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely amazing. And I think it's probably fair to say this could be the best ever Grand Prix performance from a rider ever.
Absolutely. 9 seconds off the back, pit lane start, win the race. Well, can't argue with it.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of puts there. We were all talking about, was it Brad Binder in 2016? We were like, wow, he won from the back for his first win. I think it was. That's amazing. We talk about Marc Marquez. I think Valencia 2012. He wins a soaking wet race from the back.
Yeah, near the back. He made up a shit ton of places like before the first corner thing, just launched.
Yes, that's it.
But no, this
is something else.
Yeah. 9 seconds off the back. You know, we'll talk about something else that's 9 seconds in a bit.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point.
Yeah, that'll give you a reference.
Yeah, exactly. 9 seconds. It's just madness, man. And it's Moto3 as well. How hard is it in Moto3 to close a 9 second gap? Like when you've got no toe. Like it's madness.
Absolutely. Yeah, and some would argue he doesn't know any better.
I was thinking that when I was watching it. I had exactly that. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, this kid, he shouldn't be able to do this. But no one's told him he shouldn't be able to do this. He believes he can do this, and fuck, look at what he's done. He's gone and done it.
Yeah, anyone else who's been in that position before could have looked at that and go, well, he doesn't know any better. He's pushing it. He'll crash in a minute because he's over the limit. Yeah. Well, because he doesn't know any better. He's probably relaxed as hell. Just could see on his pit board, it's coming down by half a second. I'll just keep plugging. Job's good. And he's just got lucky.
It's going to be really interesting to see as the season progresses, because you imagine you come into Moto3 as a rookie, even if you think you're Billy Big Bollocks. You've just crushed Red Bull rookies. You're coming in. You're on the Akiayo KTM squad. Like, you've got to assume that no one's coming into Moto3 and going, I'm going to be on the podium in my first race. I'm going to win my second race. No one's coming in realistically saying that. These guys are all professional motorcycle racers. They are although they all have big egos, they all believe they're the best. They're all quite realistic as well. And it would be interesting to see what happens to him now that we're all looking at him. The world's looking at him like, fuck, this 16-year-old could be the next Marc Marquez. I'm interested to see how he reacts to this pressure, because there's going to be a fucking lot of it coming up soon.
There will be now. But like I say, see how we go. Roll on Portimao.
Yeah, exactly. That Roland Portimao is going to, I think, probably be a good description for this entire podcast, because I'm going to be saying it a lot. Yeah. Basically, so many good things happened this weekend that there's so much to look forward to next race. Yeah, exactly. Let's tick through Moto2 quickly then, Steve. Fifth place was Ayagura, the rookie. Cracking result.
Aye.
Fourth place, Marco Bezzecchi. 2 fourth places across the weekend, the 2 Qatar weekends. A pretty solid start. Yeah, solid start to his season. He's one of the title favourites.
Exactly. Just keep it there. We've seen that 4th place will win you a title.
Well, exactly. 3rd place then was another rookie, and much like Pedro Acosta, another Akiayo KTM rookie in Raul Fernandez.
All right, these KTM dudes know how to pick their riders.
Yeah, fucking quite. Raul Fernandez obviously coming up from Moto3 last year, where he won a couple of races on the bounce. This is his 2nd podium in a row. No, he didn't podium, did he, in the first race?
No. Was he 5th, 4th, 5th?
He was in the top 5.
Yeah,
I
he
think
was
he
at
was
the point
5th.
he had. Good enough for your first race anyway, let alone being on the podium.
Exactly, but a solid improvement to get onto the podium, only finishing behind Remy Gardner, his teammate, in 2nd, and Sam Lowe's finishing 1st in another pretty... Although Remy Gardner kept Sam honest, Sam Lowe's had another quite dominant display in Qatar.
Yeah. 100% record, 2 wins, 50 points in the bag. Cracking. Bring on Portimao.
Yeah, exactly. And we know he performed very well in Portimao last year with a broken wrist. So
yeah, he did, didn't he, actually? I forgot about that. It's going to be good.
It is going to be good. I feel like the UK has got a lot of hope on Sam Lowe's shoulders right now.
We are hyping on. There's no football to win, so we've got to hype it somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not like let's say England, should we say, ever wins any football. We just have a few crap songs and seeing, it's coming home every year.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Coming home, and what's one of the chants I remember from watching England games in the pub?
I don't know.
Some anti-German song that is always sung in the pub when it's a football match. It's one of those ridiculous things that always just gets stuck in my head and I remember, but I can't remember it now, which is typical.
2 World Wars and 1 World Cup.
2 World Wars and 1 World Cup. That is exactly the one. And I just want to stress here that That's
not all of us.
Yeah, exactly. Neither me nor Steve are standing in the front of a pub singing the 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup song. It's one of those, when it starts, you kind of embarrassingly just walk outside.
Yeah, you're just like, I'm not a football fan.
Yeah, exactly. It's happened before, because I get very caught up in the World Cup, Steve. I really enjoy the World Cup. I really enjoy international football tournaments. But there's times where people start singing that in the pub, and I just look around and I'm like, fuck, these are really not my people. Not my people at all. I'm out.
Yep, I agree.
Anyway, Steve, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will dive straight into our full MotoGP review.
Go for it.
Good stuff. Bear with us, guys. We'll be back with you in just one moment. Thank you for bearing with us there, guys. I had to put the light on in here because it was getting dark. The sun's just gone down. So it's goodbye to another day. Hello to another night. And Steve fetched a glass of water. So now you know what we've been up to. Let's continue with the show.
Good for it.
So, Steve, MotoGP, mate. What a fucking race is all I can say on that.
Yeah, awesome race, mate. Did not disappoint. I had a little sort of fear that after last week it might be a bit dull.
Yeah.
But, mate, was I wrong?
I'm sort of with you. I expected it to not be so exciting because I kind of was thinking, look, we've had so many laps testing around here. We've now had an entire race weekend. Like, think it could be, everyone might already be at the limit. Like, it's either going to be a repeated result or it's just not going to be very close. There's not going to be anything exciting happening. The teams just know everything could possibly happen. They've got all the data they could ever need. And then, boom, this happens. We get... You mentioned briefly a second ago we were going to say what 9 seconds meant, and this is the time. The top 15 riders in this MotoGP race finished within 8.928 seconds of each other. Less than 9 seconds covered 15 guys.
That's nuts. But it goes to show you just how close they were.
Well, exactly.
On lap times. It's insane. Absolutely insane. But that was partly my fear that they would be so close, there'd be no overtakes, it would be a freight train.
But it was sort of the complete opposite of that. It was Moto3. It was the leading pack through to way past the halfway point for this race was 9-10 bikes strong.
I know. It was absolutely brilliant, mate. Could not fault it. And the action as well we got. And just like the hype. I was just kept watching the leader, just like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole thing, just mesmerised. I was just glued to the screen. You know, the boys are coming along, just like, play, daddy. It was like, sit and cuddle and watch and learn.
There is no playing today. This is important.
This is the stuff. I tried to get some pictures, actually, because Sarah kept going to enter, who's going to win? And he kept, like, standing on the telly stand, because we've got a low step bit. And he could get up to the timing tower, and he was like, that one. And he always picked a blue bike, but it was always different.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, he was right on the blue bike front, I guess.
Yeah, he did pick him. He was one of the 3 that he picked.
I mean, he managed to pick 3/4 of the blue bikes.
Yeah, basically, he was just going down picking the blue bikes. But like, he was the second one that he got. And he just kept like looking and going round and round. And Brody, being like 11 months old, just kept looking at the screen, just going like, you can't see what I'm doing, but like flicking his head from side to side like a tennis player, just like zoom, 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 looking very confused about the proceedings. But they're learning at this time. The roots are being sown here.
That'll do
the
the job,
seeds
mate.
being sown, I should say.
Happy days.
Yes. It was
actively trying to raise massive MotoGP fans.
Yeah, if not, they can move out.
If they decide they like Formula 1 more than MotoGP, that's it. Out.
Trouble is, I'll be, by the time they're 20, I'm not going to say how old I'll be, but pretty old. And there's 2 of them, so they can like what they like.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not brave enough to try. They'll fucking kick me out.
Probably. Oh, fuck you, Dad. Get out.
Just remember, Steve, they're the ones that are going to be picking for and paying for your care home in the future. So
basically, yeah. I did threaten my mother with that already. What a good one. Oh, you're a shit one.
Oh, dear, your poor mum.
No, I'm building her an annex.
Oh, that'll do the job. Happy days.
Aye. Anyway, back to the racing.
Yeah, exactly. So we will do the usual, Steve, run through the teams in the order that realistically I think they performed at the weekend, and we'll just chat about them like that. So we start with Honda.
I don't really know what to say, mate, apart from dismal.
It's a weekend to forget, isn't it, for Honda? Like, it's not been, well, an opening 2 weekends, really. It's not really been what any of the Honda riders expected to get out of Qatar.
No. I mean, what did we see? Did any of them qualify in
Stefan Bradl was in Q2. He qualified 11th. Pol Espargaro qualified 15th. Alex Marquez was 14th. And Taka Nakagami was 16th. So it's just an abysmal qualifying performance from all of them. And then in the race, it was not any better, man.
No.
Nakagami finished 17th. Alex Marquez crashed out with 10 laps to go. Pol Espargaro finished 13th. And Stefan Bradl finished 14th. So Pol Espargaro doing what we expected of him, to be the kind of the lead rider in that factory squad, but not the results we were expecting from him. And maybe we were piling on a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation on him, but it certainly wasn't just you and I. There was certainly everyone, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, mate.
No, you're fine. Carry on.
I was going to say, a lot of people said, like, pre-season, like, how well they expected him to do with this Honda. He's kind of doing what I thought he would. To be fair, we know that Honda is a beast to get hold of. he's sort of where I expected to see him.
Yeah,
And
I kind of got caught up in the hype train. Really, I certainly am guilty of that, and I expected him to be able to come out, and I think I picked him for a podium in the first race. I expected him to come out guns blazing. Maybe he will. We know the Honda's a hard bike to ride. We know the Honda doesn't go around Qatar very well as well. So maybe it's a bad 2 races for him, and a bad start to the season. He's only been able to ride the Honda around Qatar. So
yeah, I think.
It's one of those bring on Portimao, isn't it? Wait for the season to progress, and we'll have to kind of keep coming back to it. And again, we're going to say it a lot in this show. There's a lot of just wait till the season progresses. Qatar's weird. 2 opening rounds at Qatar is weird. It's a weird year. They've only done laps around Qatar. We don't know what's going to happen. Yamaha look amazing right now. They might not be. It's interesting. There's a lot to discuss, but I think it's a very disappointing opening 2 weekends for Honda. Very disappointing for Pol Espargaro, and Alex Marquez as well, just crashing.
Yeah, all of them, really. I was hoping for more progression. You know, Alex Marquez looked good at the end of last year. Taka had his poles. You know, it was looking really good. It's just not happening this year. We know, like you said, we know the Honda doesn't go well round Qatar, so bring on Portimao, and hopefully we can see some changes start to come their way.
Yeah, even Portimao though, like Honda haven't got much data around Portimao. I can't actually remember how Honda did at Portimao last year. I think Stefan Bradl had quite a good result actually.
Yeah, I think he was up nearer the pointy end. Alex Marquez, I think, had a better race. I don't know. They need to improve. I mean, Repsol Honda finishing down the bottom of the order is not where they want to be. And the only thing I can think is they must be looking at Marquez and thinking, when the hell are you coming back?
Exactly, and if Marquez isn't up to speed straight away on his return, the Honda have just written off another season because it's not looking good. But again, I say they've written off another season. I've also just said that we don't know anything about this season yet because it's a weird season so far. So I can say a lot of things, and hopefully one of them's right, and I can claim I was right about it.
Yeah, that's the best way. Sow a lot of seeds, and one of them is bound to sprout.
Exactly, and that's what I'm going for, Steve, with this. So Honda, let's just cover all the bases. Honda had a terrible weekend. Honda are going to have a shit year, but they could have a good year if Marquez is back up to speed. But if he's not back up to speed, it could be terrible, but it might be great. And you never know, Pol Espargaro might win the championship.
There you go.
So there we go. Covered all the bases, and we can just snip those out and, claim ourselves to be fortune tellers in the future, Steve.
Sorted.
Cool. Let's move on to KTM then, shall we?
Let's go for it.
KTM, also a pretty shocking couple of weeks.
It's not. After last year, I was hoping that momentum would carry on.
And I'm still quite convinced it will. I think it will. I think that, again, we said it already, and we're going to say it again. Weird season so far. 2 weird races. It's a track they don't get on with anyway. A track that they haven't got a lot of experience around, to be fair, because there's a lot of rookies and almost rookies in that class, or in that KTM folds. But yes, certainly not what we had hoped for.
No. The KTM is a bike that does, again, one of the manufacturers that doesn't go well around Qatar. And then to have 2 races there just makes it even worse. It just makes it seem like the start of their season has been even more shocking than what it is. Normally, we've moved on by now. We've been preparing for the second race this weekend, and it would be like, first race of the season. They've had a better second race.
Yeah.
So, again, roll on Portimao and let's see what they can do.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess there's quite a few actually mitigating circumstances going on. We know the bike doesn't perform well around Qatar and no one's expecting it to. Arguably, only one of their riders has ever ridden a KTM around Qatar until this year, which would be Miguel Oliveira in his first year in MotoGP. Brad Binder's first year in MotoGP, there was no Qatar. Iker Lecuona, his first full year in MotoGP, no Qatar. Danilo Petrucci has never ridden a KTM at all until being at Qatar, and he's not been getting on with it so far. So I guess that is there, but we'll just run through anyway. Brad Binder qualified 18th, Miguel Oliveira qualified 12th, Petrucci qualified 17th, and Iker Lecuona qualified 20th. In the race, Danilo Petrucci finished 19th. Iker Lecuona had a DNF. He crashed out with 10 laps to go. Same lap as Alex Marquez. Miguel Oliveira finished in 15th, and Brad Binder finished 8th. I'm
disappointed Lecuona went down. I would have liked to see him push on a bit more.
Just get to the end of the race.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just keep it going down. I like what you put in the notes about Petrucci. The bike looks nice, at least.
Yeah. I just wish we could see it more.
I thought that was brilliant. I really like that little quote. Brad Binder finished the race in 8th. And like you said, less than 5 seconds off the win. So that's a positive. That's a really good positive to take away.
It is, but let's remember the top 15 were within 9 seconds of the win.
Yeah, that is true. But it shows he was in that bracket.
Yeah.
His pace must have been good enough to keep him there.
Yes.
So that's a positive. And like you said again in the notes about Miguel Oliveira, what a launch.
It was absolute fucking madness, that launch, wasn't it? Off the line, he'd made 6-7 places before other people were fucking moving. Like, he got such a great start.
I was absolutely positive to start with that he jumped the start.
Yeah, me too.
I really did look at that and think, well, it's going to be a jump start for him.
Mm-hmm.
But it never came. He must have hit that light perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect, and had everything, throttle, everything in the right spot just to get that.
Yes. Michael Laverty said something interesting when talking about this, and he was saying that KTM have a very similar launch system to Ducati. So it's not a surprise they had such a good start. And that sent me down a little rabbit hole, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, all of the teams bar Yamaha have got a very similar launch system to Ducati, haven't they? Both front and rear, they can lower the lot.
Yeah.
So do you think this is going to mean that throughout the year, this year, we're going to see a lot of great launches from 1 or 2 riders a race? We saw it from the Ducatis last week. We now saw it from a KTM. Just mean it's just every now and again, someone with their launch system, they're going to do exactly what you said. The revs are going to be just right. The clutch is going to be at the perfect point. They're just going to go. And thanks to the lowered suspension and stuff, they're just going to whoom. Is this going to be just an artifact of this year that we're going to see these amazing launches from people? And then, like Oliveira, is he going to put them out of place and they're just going to drop back through the race?
I think so. I think it's just going to become a norm. I think, like you said, Aprilia has got a very similar system to the Ducati, so KTM. So is the Suzuki, I think, as well. I think it's not quite as on par with them as the other 2 bikes, but it is very close. Yamaha is like a standalone now. I think we're just going to see a few awesome launches, which is going to almost negate their qualifying.
Yes.
If these guys actually say qualified on the front row or the front 2 rows, they are just going to disappear. But again, they're going to drop back because the race paces, they're not good enough to hold up with everyone else. Yeah,
that's it. That's when the Suzukis and the Yamahas come into their own with their amazing race pace.
Yeah, you're almost splitting it into a race of 2 halves. You got the launches in the first half, and you got the longevity in the second half. And it does mean at some point they're going to cross, which is great. That's where all the action is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they can get hold of the bike and conserve the tires, the launches, if they can then manage everything right, are going to have such a lead and potentially such pace that everyone else pushing is then going to burn the tires out, try to catch up.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the ideal scenario for someone like Dovi, who has just left Ducati, really, because he was very good at slowing a race down, wasn't he? Bringing a race to the pace that he felt comfortable with, bringing the race to a pace that he knew he could make his tyres last, and then he could just balls to the wall on the last lap or 2.
Exactly. Actually, seeing him on this year's bike would have been pretty awesome. Shame. But there we go. Who knows? We might see him on an Aprilia yet.
Yeah, exactly. We might see him getting amazing launches. I do wonder whether this has opened a Pandora's box of launch control as well, Steve, because it's in the notes later on, but we'll just discuss it now while we're into talking about launch controls. We know that Yamaha, obviously, with Morbidelli, had an issue with their launch control last week, and it meant that he was a second a lap slower for the entire race. This week, we know Pecco Bagnaia had an issue with his launch control. So is it also going to be a thing then going forward that while 1 or 2 riders are going to have cracking launches every race, or 1 or 2 going to not get the system quite right, and are they going to struggle through the races as well? Is this going to be another a weird thing that all these teams have spent so much money on developing, and it could either work for them or screw them completely for a weekend?
I think it goes either way. I mean, launch control is really still in its infancy. It's new tech, and any new tech is going to be glitchy and have bugs. And then, when it is even perfected, it's electronic. It could fail.
Well, it's not electronic, is it? It's all mechanical. Because
it's all mechanical, but it's still a working part. It's still something that
it's still
can
a moving
fail.
part. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it will become a thing. It's another complicated system that is being added onto an already unbelievably complicated machine.
Yeah, I wonder whether they ban it to save money. Just
I think
to reduce costs. So, like, no, we're getting rid of this. Like, they probably would have done with the seamless gearbox if they'd got there in time.
Yeah, I think they could, because, all these manufacturers are almost completely different levels. You look at how far behind Yamaha are. There's still time for them to catch up. If in a COVID-stricken world, it turns out that this is costing X amount to develop and is seen as a waste of money, then yeah, I could see them banning it. And everyone has just got to go back to normal launch control.
Yeah.
Anti-wheelie on the bike, and it's down to you to really control it.
That's it. Because with the anti-wheelie and stuff, that is electronic, isn't it? It's the launch control, I guess, we're talking about now is the locking of the suspension, which means the bike sits lower. There's no...
down.
Yeah, exactly. The suspension's not working until they hammer the brakes for the first corner, and then it all releases, and then they're good to go for the race. Yeah,
you still see the anti-wheelie kicking in, so there's still some practice starts. You saw the Ducati especially trying to wheelie, and you could hear and see the system kicking in. As soon as that front wheel bobbed, it dropped.
Yeah, you hear it bog down, don't you? It's noticeable. And you see it in the speed of their acceleration as well. If one guy can keep his wheel on the ground, he will out-accelerate the guy whose front wheel is skipping. Yeah. You just hear that sort of chatter as the engine's firing, but it's not developing power, just to sit the front down. Yeah, exactly. You hear it quite a lot in domestic races. Like, we heard it a lot when we went to Snetterton that time. You could, coming out of the last corner. I don't think they have any anti-wheelie in Snetterton. I think that's all on their wrists. In BSB, I don't think there's any electronics, is there? No, it's on the Revliner, but you still hear the misfire. Oh, okay, yeah. You hear that kind of crackle. Yeah. It's slightly different in MotoGP. It's different, slightly different sound, but that was what I was going for. You could hear the effect. Okay, I'm with you. So, I quite like it. I like that sort of... Yeah, I quite like any mechanical noise. I realise, and I sort of realise this every year after the winter break, when I hear racing again, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one. Just the noise of it. It's like when if I go to a go-kart track or I go to a motocross track, not that I do motocross, but if I'm near one, I'll go and watch, like just a typical weekend at a motocross track. It's the smell, the two-stroke smell. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, it's that kind of thing. It's not just even two-stroke. Like, if you go to, again, I'll say Snetterton, our local track, at the end of the day, when the last race is on, there's just the smell of oil and fuel in the air. Yeah, and just a hot day as well, like whether it's car or bike racing, it's just hot engines, tarmac, the lot. It's just a very unique smell that is one of those that. And Cherie is funny because she always says to me when I'm watching the bike, she's like, "Why are you smiling?" I'm like, "Well, it's fun racing." She's like, "But the noise is annoying." I'm like, "It's not annoying though, Cherie. Come and watch. You'll see why it's not annoying." She's like, "No, I hate it. I hate all of it." And she said to me before, she's like, she hates being a racetrack. She hates the smell. She hates the sound. So it's funny that it can have such a different reaction to different people because I fucking love it. Yeah, I live it. I find it quite intoxicating. I'm one of the weird ones. I love going to the petrol station because I love the smell of petrol. I just hang around there sometimes, deck chair. They're like, oh, yeah, fuck. And at pump 3, can you please remove the deck chair and put away the pina colada? This is not the beach. Yeah, I'm just quite happy. Where are you? Sainsbury's car park. Very happy in my own little world, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It is intoxicating to some. If you're a petrol head, you get it. If you're Greta Thunberg, nightmare. Yeah, that's a fair point. Absolute fucking nightmare. She's been quiet recently. I'll have to give her a ring. I fucking love Greta. Absolutely love her. She's one of my favourite human beings alive. Everything she does, I think, is gold. I think her tweets are amazing. I think her social media presence is on point. I think she's so perfect balance between activist and just sarcastic teenager. She's nailed it. I really do like her. I just like the fact that a 16-year-old can be seen as one of the world's best activists and most knowledgeable people in climate change, but yet she's not old enough to vote. Isn't it amazing? Maybe we need to rethink how we're deciding who can and can't vote, Steve. Yeah, and I quite like the girl.
I would take her out on a 2-stroke any day.
Just
to see her raging.
Let's keep moving so people don't get weird sound bites from this show. Back to Miguel Oliveira. I expected him to fall back quite quickly after his amazing launch, but he fell back a lot further than I expected him to, especially when you consider Brad Binder's 8th place.
Yes, he did drop back a lot, but that might have been partly aided by a certain breakdown.
Exactly. So 15th, as we've said, was his finishing position. But yes, he reports that at the beginning of the race, his dashboard went completely black. So he had no gear info, no lap times, no communication with the pit wall, didn't know what map he was on, didn't know how to change map. He was completely riding blind. And it's one of those weird things, isn't it? Because I was thinking about that, I'm like, well, that's not that fucking hard. I'm like, if I put duct tape over my speedo on my bike, I'd still know how to ride the fucking bike. But I'm not riding to 100% of what that bike can do. These guys have to ride to 100% of what their bike can do, and any disadvantage loses them a few percent, and a few percent is a few tenths a lap.
That's a lot as well, and they get a lot of info from these dashboards, not just like lap times, like you say, mapping. He's coming to the end of the race, he needs to change his power setting. Well, where the hell am I?
Yeah, exactly. And even it tells them when to change gear. Like there's lights on there that will say this is when you should change gear. Often they ignore that. They'll rev it slightly high, they'll rev it slightly low. That's pretty normal. But even just having that light there, you know how your bike works. And you'll be the same, Steve. You'll know just by when you are riding, you know you need to be somewhere quick or you don't. You're changing gear at different times and you're like, right, I can rev it an extra 1,000 and I know that by the sound. But if he's knowing that by normally I see a light and then I change gear a second later, like that's all gone.
Yeah. You're riding completely blind on such a basically an electronic machine. You need the aids. You need what is given to you to help you ride it. It's not like my old man's bike where I ride it down the road and I know if I hit 50 in third, something's going to fall off.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, on this thing, you're going in the gravel. You need the help. You can't just ride it like an old school bike.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it's not a 500cc from 1999. Like, you need this information now to get the most out of these machines. They're fucking spaceships. I mean, literally, look at the Ducati. They're fucking spaceships.
Oh, yeah. Some aliens up there like, fucking hell, it's my saucer.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, how the fuck did they get that tech?
Yeah, Gigi's like that. Fuck off, Green Man.
Gigi's got a deal with Fred the alien.
Literally. What was his name? I'm trying to think of him now. Marvin the Martian.
Marvin the Martian. There we go. Let's move on to Aprilia then, Steve.
Again, not last.
Not last that we're talking about. Not both of them were last in the race.
No.
They're looking strong, actually, Steve. And I know, again, it's the same thing, isn't it? This is just Qatar. It's a weird season. We don't know how this is going to go. But it's been a really, really good opening 2 rounds for Aprilia. Aleix Espargaro has looked incredible. And in this race, I mean, he qualified 7th, ended the race in 10th, and was... Yeah. You know, he was up fighting in the top 3 for a quarter of the race. Time. Yeah, exactly.
It's looking promising, mate. If the whole Dovi thing is true, I really want to see what could happen there. No disrespect to Savadori. I'm starting to think if I was Aprilia, I probably would chuck Dovi on there.
I mean, if I was Aprilia, I'd definitely chuck Dovi on there because I think Aprilia are very terrible with their man management and not very good at doing contracts. So I would 100% do it if I was Aprilia. If I was any other factory, I probably wouldn't be doing that. But if I was Aprilia, yes, I would be.
Yeah, but I can't remember a season gone by with Aprilia where you've had one of them, say Aleix, for instance, because he's doing so well, has consistently been at the top, qualified 7th. You know, I know we're only 2 races in, but it's 2 on the bounce. I don't think that's happened before. So already it's looking promising.
Yeah.
And if you get the opportunity to have 2 riders who you know can to get the maximum out of that machine, take it.
Yes.
Absolutely. This could be the point where we start to see the tables turn for Aprilia, and I really, really hope it is.
Yeah, it would be amazing to have 6 competitive factories on the grid. It would be great.
It would. Yeah, Salvadori, I just really hope, like you said in the notes, at least he finished the race.
Yeah, so he qualified 22nd and finished 20th, didn't he? And yes, at
Yeah.
least he finished. He was 38 seconds off the win and 22 seconds off 19th place. But last week he was 46 seconds off the win and 23 seconds off the guy in front of him. So it's an improvement.
It's coming, slowly.
What was that French fella's name that rode for Avintia for like one race and then was a bit slow and everyone booted him? Like the rest of the riders got together. He was a stand-in rider.
Oh,
was he French? I can't remember now. He came from like some domestic superbike series.
There was the Aussie chap who everyone deemed as unsafe. Who was?
Maybe that is him I'm thinking of.
The only name that pops into my head for some reason, and it's not him at all, is Josh Herring. But he's AMA, so
yeah, it wasn't Josh Herring. Maybe it was an Aussie guy then. But he came like he had a contract with Vintia to ride 2 or 3 races as a stand-in rider, and in the first race he was slow, and he sort of improved. But then the rest of the riders were like, "He's not safe. We can't have him here."
Yeah,
I'm surprised no one's saying this about Salvadori yet.
I am. It might just be the fact that he's not getting lapped that is saving him. He is finishing. He's not like crashing out and causing loads of drama or red flags or anything like that. He is finishing. But yeah, he is a long, long way off the pace, and he's qualifying, so he's in that 107%.
Yeah, that's true. But he's in it.
Very just. He's there. He's not causing any issues. He's circulating at the back. He's not interfering with anyone. I guess it's okay.
Yeah, and he is injured, isn't he? We know he's injured.
He is
that
injured,
is being mentioned over and over again. I sort of, with the improvement from last week to this week, I sort of hope he gets a chance to show us what he can do, because I feel like, while I'm not sure he's an all-round, quote-unquote, MotoGP rider, I do think he's better than what he's showing at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. I said it a lot last year with like Alex Marquez's appointment at LCR. Anyone who gets picked to be there should have their time to prove themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think he needs. It is unfortunate he's injured, but I do think he should be given the time to really show what he could do. Like you say, he is a better rider than this. Let's not write him off just yet.
Yeah, but the problem is, isn't it, that we're then in that spot that we've just discussed. If you and I were Aprilia, we would be booting him to bring Dovi in if the opportunity arises.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're there to win races and finish as high up the order as possible. And if you can see a different road to get you there, then you're going to take it.
Yeah, exactly. I did just want to mention as well, Steve, here that I noticed that Aleix Espargaro was, while he was running near the front and running in that kind of top 5, top 6, he was very on the limit to stay there. Because every time he got it a little bit wrong, he got it quite a lot wrong. And he ran quite deep. He ran into a few corners. He was really, really on the limit. But I also noticed he was taking some weird lines compared to everyone else. It was a lot of very wide, very sweeping lines. He looked quite Lorenzo-esque, but without being quite as smooth.
I think that was a mixture, like you say. He was on the limit. He was really wringing that thing's neck. And I think some of those wide sweeping lines might have been
mistakes.
I think they could have been.
You're probably right, to be fair. It might be me just overanalyzing things, thinking I'm a proper armchair expert now.
I did look at a few of them, and I did get a little technical. I did have a little measure, should we say. He was taking some wide sweeping lines, but they're never in the same spot.
Okay.
They were very, very close. They were far closer than I could get them.
This is the Troy Bayliss style of racing, isn't it? It doesn't matter if your lines are the same every lap as long as you're fast.
Yeah, I think that's what he was going for, 100% corner speed. And just run it, because every time you saw him come out of a corner, he closed people up so much.
Yeah, that's fair.
He was taking such a lot of corner speed into those turns. So I think he was just really wringing its neck and putting it wherever he could get it to take as much corner speed through. And it worked for a time. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I mean, it worked arguably for the race. A top 10 finish is a good result for Aprilia. A really good result. And comfortably beating all but one of the KTMs, comfortably beating all of the Hondas. You know.
A lot of big scalps behind him.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of big scalps, let's move on to Suzuki.
Let's go for it.
Suzuki had... it's just a sort of classically Suzuki weekend, wasn't it? Bad qualifying, reasonable race pace. Pretty good race pace, to be fair. Probably should have finished higher than they did. But Johan Mir qualified 9th. Alex Rins qualified in 8th. If Suzuki qualify above 8th and 9th, you're sort of like, wow, cracking qualifying. As long as Suzuki are on that third row, you kind of expect it to be a normal Suzuki weekend, don't you?
Yeah, it's kind of feeling like where they belong.
Yeah, it does. If they're on the third row, kind of 7th to 10th, I'm like, that's the Suzuki qualifying spot.
Yeah. Anything higher than that, and I'm like, ooh, hello.
Anything higher than that, and you're like, it's a fucking Suzuki 1-2 this weekend.
Yeah, basically. If they're on the second row or one of them's in third, you really then start to take notice. You know, you're like your dog when the fridge door gets opened.
Or someone says a word beginning with W. What?
Yeah. Hey. Walkies? Whoa!
Yeah, exactly. Or you go too near the lead.
That's it. You walk past it. We're going.
Yeah.
Oh, you put it down. Shit. But that is exactly what it feels like. Massive jubilation with such huge disappointment. You know?
Yeah.
They always qualify badly, but they always seem to do so much better in the race.
Yeah, that's exactly the case. And that was the case this week as well. Alex Rins raced from 8th place, which he qualified, to 4th. Johan Mir raced from 9th place to 7th. That's not the whole story, though, is it, with Johan Mir?
No. Him and Miller had, should we say?
A tussle or two.
A tussle. They decided to trade some paintwork.
Yes, exactly. They thought they were NASCAR for a little while, I think. I think they forgot they were on two wheels and they thought they were racing around like the Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I think what happened was the night before they got some popcorn and watched Days of Thunder.
Yeah, that's pretty much covers it, I think. So Johan Mir was having a pretty good race up until that point, wasn't he? He was fast, he looked good. He was behind Rins, and I was a little annoyed because I have swapped Rins and Mir out in my fantasy squad. I thought, Mir's clearly showing he's going for it. I'll put Mir in, take Rins out. Error on my part, obviously. But yes, Mir was performing quite well. It looked good. It looked good for both Suzukis. They were top 6 in the early laps. And like we've just discussed, you see the Suzukis in the top 6 in the early laps. You're like, well, hey, we're on for a Suzuki result here.
We're going big guns.
But Mir was stuck behind Miller, wasn't he? And obviously that big, wide, fast Ducati is a hard bike to pass. And Mir had to make quite a strong manoeuvre, I think you'd say, to get past Miller.
Yeah. It was definitely a lunge, a very long lunge, we say.
Yes.
But it resulted in a bit of a coming together. Mir's front wheel with Miller's left leg.
It was certainly not the harshest coming together, though, for someone just coming up on the inside that we've seen. It was no Rossi Gibernau in Jerez.
Yeah. It didn't sit Miller up.
It did pushed him a little bit wide, and it pushed him out to the curb, and then he brought it back down, and Mir got through.
Yeah, if you see a rider suddenly get really badly set up and they're like bolt upright mid corner, and then there's been a nudge and it's been a harsh overtake. But this was just a run wide.
It was a rubbing his racing move, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically racing incident. But then a few corners later.
It was towards the end of the lap because it was out onto the straight, wasn't it? So that was near the beginning of the lap that the Mir got through on Miller, and then coming on to the start-finish straight, they came together once more.
Yeah, I think someone had a moment in front of them. I think it was Rins, which caused I think Mir to slow down a little bit, but then Miller just like appeared, and it was just a complete clattering together. Two bikes, 1 square foot of track, ain't gonna happen.
So it's interesting. I sat and I've rewatched this incident, and this evening, just before we started recording, I watched it 4 or 5 times because I was quite convinced during the race that it was a weird racing incident. I was like, oh, well, it's unfortunate. They came together once, they came together twice. Having watched it again a few times, I am 100% convinced Miller knew exactly what he was doing. It looks a lot like, from where I was standing, it looked a lot like Mir ran the corner quite wide, was up on the curb. Miller came across on the normal line, looked across at Mir on the curb, looked back forward again, looked across again at Mir on the curb, and then just ran his Ducati out to the curb. It looked a lot like he deliberately pushed Amir very, very much wider than he should have been. I think they came together very hard. Both guys stayed on. They did come together very hard, and I'm convinced Miller didn't intend to come together that hard with Mir, but I am convinced Miller tried to make contact with Mir.
Yeah, I think he just tried to run him out and slow him down.
I think that was it. That was a fuck you. Why did you do that to me last time? But in the end, what happened was quite an intense clattering, and they lost 3 or 4 spaces.
Yeah, I think he probably thought Mir would fold.
Yeah, just keep going and just bump onto the grass a little.
Yeah, but he stood his ground, which caused the clattering together.
Yeah.
Fair enough. If you're going to try it, expect someone to fight back.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It seemed very... Mir's move, I think, was absolutely fine. I had no issue with it. Yeah. It was hard racing, but it was good racing. Miller's move felt a lot to me like revenge. It felt to me like it wasn't definitely racing. It didn't need to happen. It was the Prost-Senna deliberate collision that isn't necessary. However, the stewards obviously took a different opinion to that, and they cleared both guys completely. So this is just my opinion. And let's be fair, I don't want to anger the new moustached Jack Miller, because I think he's playing a pretty good villain right now, and I don't want to be tied to a chair and tortured by the moustached Jack Miller.
No, he looks pretty evil.
He does. He does
we'll
look
leave
evil.
Him well alone.
Exactly. But making contact for Johan Mir essentially ruined his race, didn't it? He finished 7th overall. Alex Rins had a great scrap. He was fighting in the podium positions for most of the race, and for many laps was just trading places with Zarco, second and third.
Swapped all the time. It was great.
It was the prime example, wasn't it, of how 2 different bikes operate in 2 very, very different ways. The Suzuki through the corners was cracking. So good. Yeah,
but then give it the back straight, and the Ducati is just a missile.
Exactly. 0.3 of a second the Ducati was making up on the straight, man. 0.3.
That's so much. There's so much. You imagine, even if the Suzuki was 6 kilometers an hour faster down the back straight, with its already phenomenal corner speed, that thing would be outstanding. Yeah, you would not beat it, because the Ducatis just wouldn't be able to get away that quick. You would almost be able to see a scenario where the Ducati would just be alongside in the braking zone. They wouldn't be able to power past them. And then it's a different ball game. It's like battle of wills of who's going to let off first.
Yeah, exactly. And a battle of which bike can brake the best.
Yeah, which you've got to probably argue with all that aero would be the Ducati.
Well, the Ducati's very good at braking in a straight line, isn't it? But we also know the Suzuki's very good at braking into a corner. So it would all depend what the turn after the straight is like.
Yeah, it would be complicated. You couldn't write an analytic for it to get a computer to work it out. It would just be so many scenarios.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure next year, if Suzuki solely work on their engine, we could see that prospect.
Certainly, and we know they were testing their engine already. But at the moment, they're losing 15, 16 kilometres down the straight, aren't they, to the Ducatis?
Yeah, which is a lot. Yeah. A hell of a lot.
Exactly. So let's bring us on to then another team that's losing a lot of time down the straight to the Ducatis, shall we?
Let's go for it.
Yamaha. Yamaha had it's a hot and cold weekend for the Yamaha boys, wasn't it?
They're like a seesaw with, I don't know, your dad on one side and a 4-year-old you on the other.
Exactly, and you're surrounded by broken glass and rusty nails as well.
Yeah, daren't fall off.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when it goes wrong, it's going to go really wrong, so let's just ride it out while the going's good.
Yeah. Yamaha are, 50% of them are all at sea at the minute, and the other half are on dry land, on the beach, loving life.
Exactly. So we know the factory Yamaha boys had 2 really great rounds of Qatar, a win each and a 5th place each. And they're currently 2nd and 3rd in the championship, drawing on points thanks to those results. The Sepang Racing Team Yamaha, not so much. In this race, Valentino Rossi, man, qualified 21st place. Franco Morbidelli, was it his worst ever qualifying?
Yep. Yeah, he's never qualified that low before.
Wow.
That is his worst qualifying ever, and I believe this could be his worst ever start to a season.
Yep, I can quite believe that.
I did hear a rumour that he was struggling with setup so much that they just got a bit lost. I think it was might have been Hodgie say something during commentary on Sunday as well, that sometimes when you're hunting for something, when you're behind, you can just get lost in your settings.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, but I feel like that's the same story as Valentino last year. Almost
Yeah.
the same story as 2019.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, the next 2 or 3 rounds are going to be absolutely crucial for him.
Yeah.
He needs to qualify better. He needs to find more speed. He needs to just get his head sorted. There's a lot going on there. And I don't think he's going to solve it all. I think we're looking at the point now where Valentino's got to realistically think a top 10 is going to be a good result.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's sad to say, especially because we know Valentino is good at Qatar.
Yeah, he is good at Qatar.
And we know the Yamaha's good at Qatar. They won both fucking races.
So this makes me even more worried.
Yeah.
You know, it's not looking good. I only hope it's just the team adjustment that is doing this.
Yeah,
maybe
we can
psychological. Hope. I don't know. I really don't know what to make of it. The fanboy inside me was screaming this weekend. Just like couldn't believe it.
Yeah, but even his teammate, isn't it? It's not just Valentino struggling here. Morbidelli, as we said, qualified 10th, finished the race in 12th. He was one. I think you made him your pick for the championship this year. He was a championship favourite for most people. It's not been the start he expected. It's been a terrible 2 weeks at Qatar. He did nothing in this race worth talking about, but it is a long season.
It is, and we've seen the slow starters progress and come through nicely. So, I don't know. I'm hoping it's just a slow burn.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's almost a confidence thing. He's had a shit couple of weekends at Qatar. Last year, he finished on the podium in Portimao. On the same bike he's on this year, so we have got that to look forward to. Hopefully, he can get his season started. It's still a long season, like we say. Is it 19 round season this year?
Yeah,
potentially a 22 round season.
Could be. We've still got rounds unannounced.
Yeah,
we'll see. It's a long way to go yet. I just hope that 2019 bike hasn't now been left behind.
Yeah, that's fair.
So we will see.
We will indeed. But the rest of the Yamaha, Steve, this is where the excitement happened for Yamaha, didn't it? Maverick Vinales qualified 3rd, Fabio Quartararo in 5th.
Yeah, awesome. Looking much better from Maverick again in qualifying and in the race. Fabio qualified brilliantly and raced perfectly.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting couple of weekends, hasn't it? Because Maverick then finished 5th overall in the race. Fabio Quartararo won the race, which is a bit weird to be talking about the winning team and not the final team we're about to talk about in the manufacturers list here, but it is what it is. It's a very interesting start for both the factory guys here because we're very used to after Maverick Vinales for years, to be fair, but Fabio Quartararo after last year, it was hot or cold, wasn't it? If they could get out and they could go early, happy days, they're looking strong. If they get mired back in the pack, they lose their heads. They lose their shit. They didn't know what was going on. They couldn't work out the race and they'd just fall back. But both factory guys have had bad opening laps in the last 2 weeks, and they've both dropped back from their qualifying positions, sometimes to near the back of the top 10, and yet both times, both boys have been able to get their head around it, be like, yeah, we're good, let's go, and been able to then race back to a really solid result. So while again, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's Qatar. It's weird. We know the Yamaha's good around Qatar anyway. We know Maverick good around Qatar anyway. It's filling me with optimism for Yamaha. I think Yamaha are looking really strong coming out of these 2 weeks.
Absolutely. I think both riders have matured a lot. I think with like the Maverick Vinales of old has gone. Ish, because it's still early days, like you say, they're dropping back just solely to the power of that Ducati. But that whatever that was that went on with Maverick, where he gets stuck in a fight and he dropped back. Yeah. So when you got this many Ducatis blasting past you, you're just going to think, right, he's going to drop back even further, but he's not. He's holding it. If those Ducatis hadn't gone past him, he'd be quite near the front.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on there is working. It's working with Fabio. He's gelling them with that bike perfectly. Coming into a new team, he's obviously settled down really well. They can both fight their way through the pack, which is a new thing, especially for the Vinales. tyre constellation seems to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Just race management seems to be awesome. So whatever's happened there has worked.
Yeah.
And again, it makes me wonder, like last year, we look at Rossi on that bike, what was going on there with his results? You know, there was something amiss. There was something amiss. And that seat needed filling by someone like Fabio, and it has worked. Because look at the moves he put on.
He looked really solid through the race. He ran pretty much the perfect race, I think, considering everything that happened. There was a scary moment towards the end when he smashed into debris with, I don't know, a lap to go, maybe 2 laps to go. I think it was 1 lap to go. And I had to watch this again because it seemed like the commentators sort of missed it, and everyone seemed to think it was the guys slightly further back in the pack that hit it. But I watched it 3 or 4 times to make sure, and it was certainly Quartararo just straight over whatever that bit of carbon fibre was. In Formula 1, when you see that happen, you're like, fuck, that's a puncher, he's out. And I really thought we were going to see that. I really expected Fab because it looked like he just rode straight over it. I really expected him to end up crashing with a puncher on his front tyre.
Absolutely.
I don't know how it didn't happen. I assume the construction of motorcycle tyres is just different to the construction in a Formula 1 tyre. So they can take that almost like cut to it without it exploding. But it must have been a scary moment for him because it was a scary moment for me. My heart was like in my mouth for the last few corners, being like, fuck, he's going to go down and it's going to be bad.
I saw him hit it, and I was like, I was surprised it didn't do any damage to the bike. And then, like you say, I thought something would have broken on his bike.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen how fragile these things are. Cables snap, cables pulled out, bits broken. I was like, there it goes. Something's burst. You know, that'll be an ABS or brake sensor gone.
I didn't even think about that. I was too hung up on the tyre. I sort of forgot that you can just cut these sensors.
Yeah, I honestly thought something would have gone wrong with his brakes, knocked one of the pads back out the caliper or something, anything like that. I figured it would fuck the front end, and he was just not going to be able to brake, and we're going to see him running wide into the next corner.
Yeah.
But somehow, fingers crossed, touch wood, didn't happen. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Awesome race.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see what happens with the Yamahas coming into Portimao, where Maverick Vinales had a terrible race last year, Fabio Quartararo had a terrible race last year, Valentino Rossi had a terrible race last year. In fact, it was only Morbidelli that was good on the Yamaha there last year, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Portimao. Is this what we're seeing from Yamaha now? Is it a false dawn? I don't want to say yes, I also don't want to say no. I just don't know. So I'm going to say both yes, it's false dawn, and no, it's not a false dawn. Because then I've covered all my bases again, Steve.
Exactly, we like covering all bases in this show. It's just too early in the season to tell yet. So,
and that's the fun thing because it means we can just speculate for hours on end.
I know, it's great. Speculation is the best.
Exactly. Let's move on to the final factory anyway, or the final manufacturer, Steve. Ducati. Ducati obviously didn't win the race.
No,
but for 2 of the Ducatis at least, it was an absolute banger. So I guess let's just cover the Avintia boys quickly because I don't think there's a huge amount to say about them, and then we'll get into the other 4 bikes.
Go for it.
The Avintia boys, Enea Bastianini qualified 19th, Luca Marini qualified 13th, Luca Marini finished 18th, and Bastianini finished 11th. Sort of a fine weekend from Marini at least. Not fine really, finishing 18th probably isn't good enough, but he's on a 2-year-old Ducati, so it is what it is, and it would probably be fine if it wasn't for his teammate. His teammate Enea Bastianini, who finished again a really solid points result on a 2-year-old bike as a rookie, and if it wasn't for Jorge Martin, who we will be discussing again in a moment, and it wasn't for Martin's performance, we'd all be saying, Bastianini, man, look at what he's doing on that bike, what a great rookie, isn't he amazing? But Martin has fucking overshadowed the pair of them, hasn't he?
Just a bit. These guys, don't get me wrong, like Bastianini, great race. Qualifying, not so good.
I mean, he's literally the reigning Moto2 champ, so we know he's a fucking great racer.
Yeah, he had a good race. Whatever happens, everyone says he had a good race. Luca Marini, not so good, but he brought it home. You know, still a bit gangly on that bike, still looks a bit out of place. You know, looks like someone's put the bike in a hot wash and shrunk it on him.
Yeah.
He'll get there. I just think it's going to take him longer to adjust to that bike. But the Pramac boys.
The Pramac boys here. So both Pramac boys. Jorge Martin put it on pole position in just his 2nd race Shades of Marc Marquez 2013 putting on pole position in Qatar. And
right.
Johan Zarco put it on second place in
What
just
more
his
do you
second
want?
race with Pramac, I suppose.
Yeah, what more do you want? The shots of the Pramac guys on like qualifying day, race day were just incredible. That garage going nuts.
Yeah, quite.
And the camera kept panning. I'm assuming it's
Martin's
Jorge
girlfriend.
yeah, who's just in that paddock, who looks like she's about to die.
Yeah.
She stood there, you know, she's all dressed up. She's got all the, like, she looks good. And she just stood there. It looks like she's praying to every deity going.
It's funny because you're right. Her hands didn't leave like that prayer position in front of her face for the entire race.
Yeah, they weren't quite closed. She was sort of like just like, you can see her thumbs were on her chin, like her fingers were on her nose, and she's just like that. She's just like, for fuck's sake, don't drop it, don't drop it, don't drop it. If that was me, I'd have been at the back with 20 cans of Stella and 40 fags.
I'll be passed out in a heap somewhere. You have to wake me up in 3 days to tell me what the result was.
Yeah, we'd be a nervous wreck. How the hell she just did not like fall back into a seat? But that was just like, it summed up, I think, everyone's emotions perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. And I assume that was his girlfriend and not sister, but I don't know.
Who knows? But whoever she was, she immortalised how everyone was feeling.
Yeah, certainly. Because I guess the rest of the garage there, they're literally a racing team. They put up with these things. They've had these emotions before. Fuck, can he do it? Is he going to get it on the box? Yeah. Is he going to win? They've experienced those emotions before. Maybe she hasn't, and probably, to be fair, she hasn't in MotoGP. So she is feeling exactly what everyone's feeling, but she doesn't know how to control it in the same way, I suppose, as everyone else who's there who's been through this before. Like you say, if you and I were there, Steve, I'd be fucking asleep under a motorhome somewhere because I'd have just smoked too many Benson and Hedges. I'd have drunk too many Stellas, and I wouldn't know what was fucking going on. I wouldn't wake up until the trucks were moving Monday morning. I'd be like, oh.
Yeah. That only because the sunlight had hit you.
Yeah, exactly.
What's this bright thing? But yeah, you look at some of the mechanics in the garage, and they're great. They stand there, they're like that, you know, arms crossed, one arm crossed, one on the chin. They're just staring at that monitor. They're like,
the Gigi Dall'Igna style.
Yeah, cool and collected.
Yeah,
and it's not until like two corners from the end where they suddenly start getting a bit animated, and that's only a little sort of chin nod. Yeah. That's all right. We'll take that. And then they're just cool. They just go off. And then you get the others who are just like us, just bouncing around. But it was justified. This dude did something amazing. Mm-hmm. How many laps did Martin lead this race?
Martin led the race from start to, off the top of my head, it was maybe 3 laps to go. Like, there wasn't much. It might have been 2 laps to go. He was just in the front. And you could argue that Johan Zarco played the perfect wingman, just behind him in second place for most of the race. Because every time someone snapped past Zarco, the power of that Ducati just let Zarco snap right back, slow them down again. And afterwards, Zarco said, didn't he? He's like, he was just trying to slow the race down for Martin.
Yeah, he did. And that's a really, really nice thing to do.
I think it was selfish more than anything because he knew Martin was setting a good pace. Zarco was confident he could get past Martin and he wanted to make sure Martin could just slow the pace down enough. I don't think it was a nice thing from Zarco. I think he was 100% in it for selfish motives. To just get to the point as well, we're discussing this, but Zarco did finish the race in second place and Martin did finish in third place.
Yeah, when he saw his opportunity, he took it. And I was shouting at the TV. I was like, let him finish in second. Let him finish in second. But they're racers. They're not going to. He saw an opportunity to get in front. And he's going to take it. You know, Martin was leading the race, burning his tyres out quicker.
But he managed his tyres so well. This guy's a fucking rookie. Like, this is his second ever MotoGP race. Again, yes, weird, Qatar, we know, Tim. We've all heard you say it, but I'm going to keep saying it.
It's one of the harder tracks to manage. Yeah. It's so abrasive on the tyres.
But it is a Ducati-friendly track as well.
It is a Ducati-friendly track, yes. But it's shown us a glimpse of what he can do. And it just opens up the doorway in the back of your head to like, whoa, what can he do at the other Ducati decent tracks, and what can he do somewhere else?
That's what I'm thinking. There's plenty of tracks that Ducati's very good round, and it's going to be interesting to see.
And we know these two now can work together in relative harmony, and they will look after each other.
And even after the race, man, like Zarco was saying, I was trying to block for Martin, let him set the pace. He was setting a really good pace. I wanted to let him set it. And Martin afterwards, sorry, I'm getting a bit excited here. Choking on my own saliva with excitement, Steve. It's a strange day for me. But we saw Martin saying, he's like, yeah, if it was anyone else, I would have made a dive up the final corner to try and get second place back. But he's like, but Zarco's my teammate. Zarco's fighting for a championship. My job is just to learn. Yeah. So he already to have that head on his shoulders. I've got here in the notes, Steve, what a performance from the rookie. Only his second race. And it is shades of Marc Marquez from 2013.
It is.
Marc Marquez in 2013, no way would have gone, nah, my teammate's fighting for the championship. I'm stepping back. I'm not going to make this lunge into the final corner. And I don't know whether I respect Martin more for that or whether I think maybe he's just not got that killer instinct that Marc Marquez has got.
I think he's got it, and I think it will come. Because he was definitely fighting for that lead, and he wasn't giving it up very easily. I think just because he'd been setting that pace, he had that little scrap with Quartararo when he came past. He just didn't quite have the tyres left. Zarco was behind him the whole way. He's in his slipstream, sitting there perfectly. It's cooling his front tyre off a little bit. And it just, if you're behind, you could serve your tyre a bit more. And then you've got Quartararo, who's a bit further back. Yes, he pushed through the grid. Just one of the things. It just wasn't meant to be. You know, Zarco's got a bit more reserve. Quartararo's got a bit more reserve than him. Through they come. He's still on the podium. Second race. Fucking result.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely cracking result. Absolutely cracking. I did enjoy into the Facebook group, actually, Steve, when we were having a brief chat about this with Anne saying that she was following Martin on Instagram for his steely grey eyes.
That's not the only reason, mate.
Mate, that's not the only reason I was perving on his Instagram the other day either. But, you know, we're not gonna be casting blame here for looking at a man's Instagram for his eyes.
Eyes, exactly. It's all in the eyes, mate. It's all in the hazels.
Exactly. I do think as well, Steve, talking about Martin as well. Do you remember Simon telling us when we had him on the show, Simon Patterson, that is, telling us how much he rated Jorge Martin and saying he was this amazing rider that was going to do great things. And I think at the time I said, I don't really rate him as highly as you, Simon, but you know more than me, so I'm not going to argue with you about it. But in the back of my head, I was still like, I don't really rate him that highly. I think he's a great rider. Obviously, he's a Moto3 world champion. He's a Moto2 race winner. Obviously, I think he's great. But I didn't have it in my head that he was quite as good as everyone else was seeing. I think everyone else was right, man. I think I could have been very wrong about this one.
I was then trying to remember what was said in that conversation, but you're right. And he spoke about others as well, which I think are now coming true. But I think some of that is the insider knowledge, should we say. They're there. He's fortunate enough to be at the track every race, most races. Yeah. They get to see them for longer than what we do. They get to know better what is required of a 100% rider than we do. We get to see what Dorna's directors of TV want us to see.
Yes, exactly.
Which is a bit unfortunate. I would like to see more. I'd love to be our job. I'd love to be out there as well. You know, bringing you this podcast an hour after the race on race day.
Yeah, we can dream, my friend.
We can dream, but we don't have that kind of access. We're trying desperately. You know, I keep randomly sending racers out messages, which makes me look very weird.
And I keep playing the lottery because I assume that either we can either work hard, like the Steve method of working our way in, or we can just win a shitload of money and buy our way in. So I'm going for the easy buy our way in, try and win the lottery option. Steve's the one that's working hard on this.
I know about working hard. You do all the show notes.
That's fine. Then I do fuck all else throughout the week, mate.
You do a lot of writing.
Anyway, the rest of the Ducati squad, it wasn't quite the result, was it? We wanted, especially not from the factory boys. Jack Miller qualified in 4th. Paco Bagnaia qualified 6th. As previously discussed, Bagnaia had an issue with the launch.
Yeah. And
Miller had a nasty scrap with Johan Mir. Both of those led to Bagnaia finishing 6th overall, and Miller finished down in 9th. Talk about Bagnaia quickly before we get on to Miller. The start was bad because of his launch control, but from then on he looked pretty solid. He seemed to just make those places back, use the Ducati power where he wanted it, and I thought he was going to finish a little higher than he did. In the end it was 6th, but I don't think it was a a bad result for him, all things considered. The way the race panned out, at least.
Yeah, with the way, like you say, he had an issue. The way it's panned out, good save, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's beaten his factory teammate now 2 races in a row.
Bang
He's
on.
sort of getting to the point where, again, only Qatar. It's a long season, but he is sort of taking the reins as the number one in that Ducati garage, which is something none of us expected.
No, not at all. But he's doing it. He's going to piss Moustache Boy off.
Yes, exactly. Although I feel like Pecco is one that is also a bit prone to growing a little weird bum fluff moustache a lot. So I kind of hope that we don't end up with this weird Italian Ducati duo with their moustaches.
I really hope that Miller handlebars that one. The proper
I think Miller could pull off a handlebar moustache, yeah.
I think he could. But then I want to see Pecco with kind of a
thin, pointy, pencil-like moustache.
The straight-out little wispy thing, just straight across. Just
one that he's curling at the ends, yeah.
I think that because they're both good-looking lads, and I just think that contrast would be amazing.
That's fair. That would be good.
Yeah, and then they could get some advertising for mustache wax.
For mustache wax, just for men mustache dye.
Yeah, like it.
There we go. See, when you see them next week with Just for Men on their helmet, Steve, you'll know they've been listening to the show.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, right, where's my cut?
I'm actually thinking when Jack Miller knocks on my door and just gives me a quick lump for my comments earlier, that's when I know he's been listening to the show.
Yeah, probably. Just hear a tap, tap. Ooh,
yeah. I'll be like, fuck, I wish you were McPhee trying to kick me.
Yeah. Why can't you be short, small?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, for Miller, it's been a really bad couple of weeks. 2 ninth place finishes, really not the start. I really went all in on him in my fantasy league. I thought I didn't think he was going to be champion this year, but I think he was going to challenge for the championship. And again, Steve, still a long season. I know I keep saying it, but yeah, I'm starting to get a little concerned for Miller. However, Portimao last year, he performed very, very well, beating Morbidelli to that second spot on the podium, and it was a really fun scrap between them. So I'm expecting good things from him in Portimao. If Portimao doesn't go well, I'm going to start to really worry about Miller's season.
Yeah, we said it so much, but we need to now get onto Portimao, reassess what's happening with all these boys, because 2 races on the bounce, 2 completely different kind of race weekends as well. We saw one very dusty, one very hot. Contrasting. We need to get to a neutral playing field now.
Yeah. To
really see what these guys could do.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for Miller. Race hindered slightly this weekend by the coming together with Mir, but that's racing. So suck it up.
Yeah, that's exactly it, my friend.
Yeah,
that kind of brings us to the end of our race review.
It does.
We're there. So let's just go over our predictions quickly from last week, Steve. I predicted a Miller win, Mir in second, Zarco in third. You predicted a Zarco win, Vinales in second, and Mir in third. I think we can both say Miller fucked us over.
Miller did.
I got one of the podium places right, being Zarco, although he wasn't in the right position. You also got one of the podium places right, being Zarco, also not in the right position. So that's 1 point each for us, which makes it 2 for me overall, and 1 for you, my friend. Yes, I am keeping track, providing I keep winning. So it's currently 2-1 for me, and at the end of the season, if I'm still winning, Steve, you can buy me a beer.
Okie dokie. I'll let that do that.
And if you win, I'll probably just forget I made this wager.
All right, fair enough.
So next week, Steve, we've got no race. There's no race next week. We've discussed it. We have a week off. What are you going to be doing with yourself next week?
What should I do this weekend? I've prepped my fishing kit, so I haven't got to do that. Getting ready for my first trip. I don't know. I really should. I think I'm going to go see my mum on Saturday, so I really should roll Bert out of the garage and get ready for the DGR this year.
You're doing the DGR again this year?
Yeah, doing the DGR. For anyone that doesn't know, that is the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. Happens worldwide. There will be a race somewhere near you. Just Google it. If you've got
not a race, a ride.
A race, yeah. Sorry. A ride out. You can race if you want, just don't get caught.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah, look it up. It's for a great cause for men's mental health and prostate cancer. So join in if you can. If not.
When is it this year?
23rd of May, I believe. I've signed up and I don't even know. Let's have a quick butchers. We'd like a Google on the show. I believe it is 23rd of May.
It feels a lot like I set this up. But like, what are you doing next week, Steve? And then we came into this perfect like segue into the DGR. But I actually didn't have any idea you were doing this. So this is a smooth setup, but it's also an accidental one. So there's none of this. You're weird selling out, lads. I didn't mean for this to happen, boys. It's just happened.
No, oddly enough, I have the emails of all the organisers of the DGR because I organised the last one we did around here. So I'll send them a message and plug them up for a bit of a, send us some stuff.
I don't think we can ask a charity to give us stuff, Steve. I think that's probably taking the piss.
That might be a bit. I'll just let them know we give them a massive shout out.
Yeah, and we will continue to do so if you're going to be taking part in that. Are you arranging another ride this year?
No, because of COVID this year, it is literally what they're doing is a ride solo as opposed to like a mass ride out. So you can, every city or someone could basically nominate a city. You could sign up to that city and then just go and ride your own ride wherever you feel like.
So it's one of those things that they're saying is going to be a ride solo because they don't want to get in trouble for breaking COVID rules, but they're probably fully aware that everyone who is doing the ride solo Manchester is just going to meet up and ride together anyway.
Yeah, I have got a list of all the restrictions because, like I said, I organise ones. They keep in touch. I've got a list of all the restrictions, what you could do. There are massive loopholes in COVID restrictions in some of these cities. So you can basically organise something, but you can't then stop any participants from organising their own little get together.
Yeah, exactly. Loopholes in COVID restrictions might be the British government slogan for the last year, actually, Steve. So basically. I'm not surprised that everyone else is doing it too.
Yeah. These people aren't intentionally doing it. It's just the fact that if you riding a motorcycle, it's all solo. So you can't then stop anyone that signs up from just gathering.
Yeah, exactly.
So it could become, I hope it doesn't, but it could become a bit of a ride out.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm almost convinced it will do. But yes, we'll see what goes on with that then. If you can keep us informed with what's happening with that throughout the next couple of months, that would be great.
I will, but what about you, my friend? What are you going to do with your weekend off of racing?
Honestly, mate, I've not got any clue. I'm a little bit behind on work. After screwing my neck, I didn't work for like 3 days, which has been a bit of a chore. So I've got a lot of work to catch up on. I missed some deadlines, had to desperately apologise to editors, but I'm catching up again now. So that's fine. So I'll probably just be doing that for the next few days, to be honest, just getting on top of it. And then maybe if it stops snowing, go out for a walk or two.
No, well, if it stops snowing, you're going to have to put your shorts on because then it gets bloody hot. But 5 minutes later, you're going to need your thermals back on because this is England and Scotland and it doesn't know what the fuck it's doing with the weather.
Well, thankfully, I'm that embarrassing English guy that walks around with my thermals on under my shorts. I go for the man tights and shorts
nice.
Look. So that's my kind of go-to hiking look anyway. And obviously all of my leggings and tights that I wear are women's tights because it's very hard to get cool in inverted commas, cool looking leggings for men. They're all boring colours. So I, in fact, go to the same company Cherie buys all her leggings from because they're comfy as fuck, warm as fuck, and come in great patterns. So I've got some very brightly coloured leggings to go with my bright pink shorts.
Nice.
And I really look the part when I'm out hiking, Steve. I think people look at me hiking and be like, oh my God, where has this guy come from? This like, especially when you meet like proper quote unquote hill walkers who are like older gentlemen, very dressed up in all the expensive gear, and they see me just stomping along my bent hiking poles, my shoes with holes in them, my bright pink shorts, my colourful leggings. They're like, "Where's this fucker come from?"
Yeah.
But
don't really fit that kind of quintessential hikers genre bracket thing style.
No, I don't fit into that.
You are pushing this boundary, and I fear that at some point you're going to push someone's buttons. You're going to meet someone on the hill who's like, "Suck it, bleh."
Just a French guy in the Highlands during lockdown.
I apologise there to every French listener, but I just went for the effect. Or you're going to meet some random Scottish dude up a hill and he's going to be like, "What the?" No, I'm not even going to try and do the accent.
I really wish you had. That would have really pleased me.
No, I can't do Scottish. I can do a good Irish accent, but that's about it.
Oh, God, let's not. Right, Steve, let's run through the championship quickly, and then we're going to have to call the show. I think we'll just run through the top 10 because there's some interesting places here. Johann Zarco is currently leading the World Championship with 2 second places on 40 points. Following him very closely, Fabio Quartararo and Maverick Vinales, with both a win and a 5th place, are on 36 points each. 4th place is Pecco Bagnaia with 26 points. Alex Rins is in 5th. Johan Mir, the current world championship, is just 1 point behind him in 6th. Jorge Martin sits in 7th place, Steve, the rookie sensation, followed by Aleix Espargaro on an Aprilia in 8th place.
I'm loving that fact he's up there.
Quite. Jack Miller finishes 9th and Pol Espargaro finishes 10th. Obviously, the championship will get more exciting and more representative as the season goes on.
Aye.
Right, guys, that's pretty much bringing us to the end of the show. Let's run through the Fantasy League quickly, actually, Steve. We've got a lot of things to run through, so let's go through that quickly. The top 10 in the Fantasy League, my friends. Starting in 10th place is me. There I am, Tim's Titans. I've dropped 5 places since the last race,
You're
Steve.
hanging in there, though, mate.
It's not a good result for me. Next place from Australia is Oz Racer. Nourish the Mouse is in 9th, also from Australia. And then Slim Fresh from Canada is sitting in 7th place. Team Rhino is in 6th from the USA. And fuck me, sideways. A Shoe Obfuscation is there from Australia in 5th place. Rob GP is in 4th, also from Australia. In exactly the same amount of points as Rob GP is that team in 3rd place with 194 points. Knee Deep in Tarmac sit in 2nd with 201 points, and 4.5 points in front of them is Quokka's Revenge, again from Australia, sitting in 1st place.
Well, the Aussies are doing all right in our fantasy league, aren't they?
Currently, Steve, our Fantasy League, if we run down the order here, we have Australians sitting in 1st, 4th, 5th, 8th and 9th. 50% of our top 10 are from Australia. From the US, we have 3 from the US in the top 10, 1 Canadian and 1 Brit, being myself in the top 10. So yes, the top 10 is dominated by the US and Australia, but there we are. Me and Slim Fresh are there, holding our own for other countries.
I'm catching up. I will catch you up. I'll be there.
I'm convinced you'll overtake me. You're currently sitting there in 26th place, Steve, but to be fair, because it's so early in the season, I'm on 182 points in 10th, and you're on 138 in 26th. So there's a lot of recovery for you there.
Yes, we'll get there. 50 points. It'll come.
I'm convinced it will, my friend. Now that has pretty much brought us to the end of the show, guys. If you want to join the Fantasy League, you can go to MotoGP.com. You can navigate to the Fantasy League. And we're only 2 rounds in. Long season, I keep saying it. So there's plenty of time for you to come in and make your mark. You can join our league and use the code 79WJKYN7. That will get you access to the league. Or you can just follow the link I will leave in the show notes, guys. I also have a quick question for everyone, Steve. We've had... well, you and I have mentioned it as well, both on and off the show, that these shows have been running long lately.
We have been talking a bit more.
And actually, I've worked out my... I peak around 4 beers. That's the point. After 4 beers, I start to slur a little. If I can keep it at 4, we're doing okay. We don't want to be doing it like that intro to MotoGP show, which once again, God, I forgot to tell everyone to go back and listen to, because I just keep doing that. I'll have to try and get into the flow of that as the rest of the year goes on. However, we are aware we've been running a bit long. Maybe it's just me going off on rants like this one and tangents, but we've heard from a couple of people about the length of the show. Some people like it, some people don't. I kind of want to hear from you guys. What is the ideal length of show in your opinion? Would you rather we talked for an hour or 2 hours? Would you rather it was 45 minutes or an hour and a half? Let us know what you guys think is the ideal amount of time for a podcast. Because to be fair, although Steve and I started this show so we could just talk to each other about MotoGP, I kind of enjoy talking to you guys and interacting with you guys more than I enjoy talking to Steve. No, I'm kidding. I do like talking to Steve.
To be fair, I've been looking at the length of our shows. I was looking through Spotify last night and noticed that we are getting longer and longer.
Yeah, way longer, man. And this one I thought we'd be able to nail down to an hour and a half, but it's going to be longer than that.
Yeah, I know we don't seem to be able to keep it under an hour and a half now. I feel a lot of that is like the chats at the start about the news. That's adding quite a big chunk in there. But like Tim says, let us know what you think, guys. It'd be interesting to hear what your opinions are on the length of the shows.
Yeah, exactly. What do we do? And if you want it shorter, if you want a 45-minute show, guys, we can probably make a 45-minute show. But let us know what you want us to get rid of. Like, there's a lot of shit in here now that we've been throwing in, including and experimenting with. And I'm not very good when I start doing something of letting something go. So if you don't want to be hearing a news segment at the start of the show, you just want us to dive straight into the reviews, let us know. And if you do want to let us know any of these things, you have any suggestions for us at all, or just any questions in general, you can find us on...
We are For the Love of MotoGP. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter, or come and join the Facebook community. It's great over there. We have a great chat. It's a great time. Or like our Facebook page if you want to. Or alternatively, drop us an email. We are fortheloveofmotogp@gmail.com.
Smooth as fuck.
It's getting silky.
But every time we think it's getting silky, it starts to go wrong again. So
I know.
I'm not holding out hope, mate.
I cannot relax.
It's a bit like a Maverick Vinales championship challenge. Until it's actually done, you cannot be sure it's going to be done.
Yeah. If I get through a season and I haven't fucked it up, I'll do a backflip. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, don't be making those promises again. We've still got to be trying backflips at some point very soon, my friend.
Don't worry, I got it sorted. I'm on it. I have a plan.
Steve knows what's going on here. Right, guys, we've run long once more. So thank you all very much for listening, guys. Thanks for putting up with us. And please do let us know what you want from this show, because that's kind of the important thing now. As much as I do I love chatting to Steve, I'll just chat to Steve for an hour before we start recording. Like, that's fine.
We normally do that.
Yeah, exactly. So let us know what you want from the show, because that is becoming quite important to me, and more important than I thought it would. It's a bit weird. I'm not really used to this, but that's what we're going for. So thank you all very much for listening, guys. We will speak to you next week. There'll be no race review, so it'll probably be a short show anyway. But come and see what happens, eh? Thanks for listening, guys. Remember, stay safe out there. It's still not good for the human race as a whole. So fist bumps, elbow bumps, none of them handshakes, guys. And remember, mask it or casket. Speak to you next week. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.
Music is by Andrew Greenwood. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.